OTAs continuing around the NFL. I want to dive into an NFC edition of Are You Convinced? I have Mike Tannenbaum and Dan Graziano with us this morning. Mike T, are you convinced Caleb Williams is the right quarterback to lead the Bears back to glory?
I am not greedy. I work with Ben Johnson in Miami, the new head coach of the Bears. He is going to be a rule-based, disciplined play caller and coach. When you have 68 sacks, look, the Bears were not great in coaching, not great in personnel last year, but you have to bear some of that responsibility. No team has done more for their quarterback in this offseason than the Bears. We'll see if he gets better, but I am concerned by his lack of discipline and his fundamentals. That's going to not allow him to maximize his potential.
Graziano, what sense are you getting out of there?
Yeah, I think they feel like it's a ground-up situation with Caleb Williams, building from the ground up because of what Mike T said. That was something that followed Caleb Williams into the league, right? Can he play on schedule? Can he operate in the confines of an offense? And I think Ben Johnson is the kind of creative offensive mind that can figure out a way to maximize strengths and minimize weaknesses and maybe iron some of that stuff out. We've got to see it. I mean, the word convinced is a tricky one here because I don't think we have enough data on Caleb Williams in the NFL to be convinced one way or the other. But the Bears are banking on Ben Johnson as the guy that can figure out how to get the absolute best out of him while minimizing the issues that Mike T is talking about.
We have the voice of Bears Nation with us this morning, Michael Wilbon. As you hear all of this, what is your sense of, how would you describe your confidence that they have finally found what they have been looking for a century?
For 60 years, I have followed every move of this team. Yeah. And I'm not exaggerating, 60. What I know for certain is the Bears are going to screw up the quarterback situation. They're going to draft the wrong guy. They're going to have the wrong coach. They're going to coach that guy poorly. Okay, that I know. That is not the case here. Ooh. Okay, and I'm paying attention in a way that not either of these two guys who've forgotten more football in general than I'll ever know. Right. That is not the case with Caleb Williams. And the notion that he is somehow undisciplined and can't play on schedule is a function of coaching. And last year he didn't have to do that. He wasn't required to do it. He didn't even know how to do it. He is going to be coached. One of the things that is not criticized enough, and Greeny, you know I've said this privately to you, and because so many ex-coaches on TV, coaching. Yeah. NFL coaching is not looked at critically enough with a critical eye. Ben Johnson seems to be exactly what the Bears and Caleb Williams need. Did you hear Ben Johnson in his very first press conference talk about what he was going to do? Tear it down to the studs and build it. That is exactly what Caleb Williams needs. They went out and got every weapon for him. If anybody who doesn't see and listen to Caleb Williams and think he's not a sponge who's willing and able to do this, we are on separate pages, and I don't believe a word of that. And I'm a guy who knows that the Bears are going to get it wrong for 100 years. This, they're going to get right.
Okay, so the voice of the Bears has spoken. Let me get one more for you, Mike T. The Cowboys went 7-10 last year. Are you convinced they bounce back and make the playoffs this coming season?
No, but they are greatly improved, Greeny. And you and I both know Brian Schottenheimer really well. He has done a really good job with quarterback over his career. If Dak Prescott can stay healthy, this will be a really good offense. Tyler Booker, outstanding first-round pick at guard. Hembo just gave me a great stat. George Pickens, over the last 3 years, Greeny, leads the NFL in yards per reception at 16.8. And when he's complimenting number 88, who we're looking at here, those are two frontline receivers. This will be a fun offense.
Absolutely. A lot of attention was given to something that the Cowboys' new head coach, Brian Schottenheimer, said yesterday. Let me play it for you. He was asked about the development of one of his backup quarterbacks, and he offered this about his starter.
I think they all are. I mean, I think Dak is in the developmental phase, and that sounds crazy for guys who played that much, but like there's things that we're tweaking with Dak. The minute these quarterbacks think that they've figured it all out, that's when it's probably time for them to think about doing something different because the way defenses attack in this league, it makes it almost impossible to ever relax.
Graziano, what do we think of that?
Hey, look, it's a thing a coach says, right? It makes sense. I think if Dak Prescott had a press conference today and was asked about those comments, he would say that he agrees with it. You're always trying to find ways to get better. You're always trying to find things to work on. and improve. So I think that's Brian Schottenheimer being a new coach at a press conference saying new coachy type of things about his quarterback. But I mean, the point is a legitimate one. If Dak Prescott's entering year 10, to think that he's a finished product and has everything figured out, I think would be the height of arrogance for anyone. And I think if you ask any quarterback that's lasted a long time in the NFL, they would all tell you there's still things they're working on to improve every single offseason.
Not only that, but the great ones know it and internalize it. J-Mac told a great story when he was here one time about when he got to New England. Tom Brady was already the greatest quarterback of all time. And he watched one day in the locker room as Tom Brady was just by himself practicing handoffs. Practicing taking the snap and doing a handoff. Taking a snap and doing a handoff. This is a guy who at that point had won 5 or 6 Super Bowls. And yet he's doing that stuff. That work never ends. And so, yes, Brian Schottenheimer is saying what coaches say, but I think it makes sense.
It makes sense. I don't know what it means. I don't know what kind of connection.
How good are the Cowboys going to be this year? How good are the Cowboys going to be this year?
They can be a 10 or 11 win team.
Yes.
But you know, the notion that the Cowboys are now prepared to go on some great run, how often are we going to be fooled by the Cowboys? And by the way, they have had those 12 win seasons successively. So maybe I'm undervaluing what the Cowboys are going in. But so much of this is going to depend on Dak coming back. And by a lot of it's just talking about coaching is Schottenheimer, who's proven nothing, who has everything to prove. We talk about coaches with a lot to prove. Schottenheimer's got even more to prove than Ben Johnson coming into this season.
Yeah, he was a surprise pick by a lot of people. I think he's going to do a good job. I think the Cowboys managed to win 7 games last year. I mean, Graziano said it better than anybody. No team has added a better quarterback this offseason than the Cowboys have. They're getting Dak Prescott back. Danny, you said that the other day. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people. All right, more football as we go, but we'll get back to the basketball in just a moment. Tyrese, not so good when his team needed him most last night. How did the Knicks shut him down? Jay Will's going to show you. Plus, you will hear from Sir Charles with a warning for the Pacers. That's next. This is Get Up on ESPN.
Em đuổi về. Vớ vẩn chỗ người ta làm việc không phải chỗ chơi. Em tự thương con đấy. Ok, bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn làm cái gì được nhỉ? Bây giờ mình sẽ đi kia. Cầm tức rồi. Đổi sang mà cái gì thiếu liên làm chậu với lại nhị ba ngọc ta để nhà cứ sống thế
cái thứ cái quyên cái A là nó nhiều
cái túi của tao sang đây hắn ta lấy á, hắn ta lấy quay như của mình á.
Lắm rồi anh kia là anh như vậy anh như một cười thì anh yêu của mình anh không thôi yêu một cười với gì đó yêu thì anh yêu bắt đầu phải tìm đi đi đâu mà đi đâu ôi nhá ôi sơn sơn phong một tí tay này em được nó cảm ơn tí tới cái này về nữa Quên hết. Thì bắt không tắt máy được rồi.
Đâu đi.
Tại cái gì nữa?
Ra đây điện thoại là Long đi cũng với Đạt không?
Gì đâu?
Thua.
Điện thoại gì? Ê! Không được. Gì? Làm gì?